We practiced how to take his Sunday suit pants by the cuffs, hang them over the bottom wire of the hanger, and then put the hanger on the lower bar of the closet. We practiced how to button up the front of his shirt, turn it over, fold 1/3 of each side toward the center, fold the sleeves in, and lay the shirt in his drawer. He really enjoyed the training. In fact, when we were through, we even took all his clothes out of his closet and hung them back up again. We were having so much fun. There was a good feeling between us, and he learned. He was able to do the job well. As I discovered with this son, the problem was not that he didn't recognize the importance of hanging up his clothes. It wasn't even that he didn't want to hang up his clothes. It was simply that he didn't have the competency. He didn't know how to do it. Years later, as a teenager, this son had the same problem again. But the nature of the problem at that point wasn't competence, it was motivation. And it took a motivational solution to solve it. The first key in solving any training problem is to diagnose it correctly. You wouldn't bring in a cardiologist if you had a foot problem. You wouldn't bring in a plumber if the roof leaked. Neither can you solve a competency problem with a value or motivational solution, or vice versa. When we want a child to perform a task in our family, I found it helpful to always ask 3 questions. Should the child do it? A value question. Can the child do it? A competency question. Does the child want to do it? A motivation question. Based on the response, we know where to direct our effort effectively. If it's a value question, the solution usually lies in building the emotional bank account. 5. If it's a value question, the solution usually lies in building the emotional bank account and educating. If it's a competency question, the answer generally lies in training. There's a difference between education and training. Education means to draw forth, in this case, to provide a deep and proper explanation that tends to draw forth the sense of, this is what I should do. Training means to put in this case, to put into the child the knowledge of how to do the task. Both educating and training are important, and which you would use depends on the nature of the problem. If the value question is one of competing shoulds, should I do my chores or party with my friends? Then the key is in the quality of the relationship and the character and culture of the family. If it's a question of motivation, the answer generally lies in reinforcing the desired behavior either extrinsically or intrinsically, or in combination. You could provide extrinsic rewards, such as an allowance or recognition or some privilege or perk, or you could stress the intrinsic rewards, the inner peace and satisfaction that comes when people do things because they're the right thing to do, when they listen to and obey their conscience. Or you could do both. To determine the nature of the problem is a habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood issue. Over the years, Sandra has brought unbelievable enlightenment and intuitive wisdom to our family in the area of understanding the developmental stages of our children. She graduated from college with a degree in child development and has both studied and practiced it all her adult life. As a result, she has gained tremendous insights into the importance of listening to your heart and to the natural developmental stages children go through. 4. Sandra. I was in a grocery store the other day and saw a young mother struggling with her 2-year-old. She quietly tried to comfort, console, and reason with him, but he was completely out of control, shaking, screaming, sobbing, and holding his breath until he broke into a temper tantrum, to the distress of his embarrassed, desperate mother. As a mother, my heart reached out to her as she tried to come to grips with the situation. I wanted to tell her all the rational thoughts that raced through my mind in rapid succession. Don't take it personally. Act in a matter-of-fact way. Don't reward this kind of behavior. Don't let this child get any mileage out of this episode. Remind yourself that 2-year-olds aren't yet emotionally able to handle complex emotions, exhaustion, temper, stress, and so they blow a fuse and break the circuit with a tantrum. After you've gone through it a few times, you start to recognize that a child behaves the way he does partly because he's at a certain stage of growth. Development occurs one step at a time, in a kind of predictable sequence. We often hear phrases such as the terrible 2s, the trusting 3s, the frustrating 4s, and the fascinating 5s used to describe phases of behavior, often predicting hard times during the even years and hoping for smoother sailing during the odd years. Each child is an individual and different from all others, yet all seem to follow a similar path. Solitary play will gradually evolve into parallel play. These little people, side by side with separate toys and different dialogues, will eventually be able to interact with one another in cooperative play as they grow and mature. Similarly, a child needs to feel ownership and must possess before he can share, crawl before he can walk, understand before he can talk. It's important for us to be aware of this process, to notice, read about, and learn to recognize growth patterns and stages of development in our own children and their peers. In so doing, you don't take it personally when your 2-year-old breaks away, defies you with a no, and tries to establish himself as an independent person. You don't overreact when your 4-year-old uses toilet words and shocking language to get your attention and vacillates between being a self-confident, capable child and a regressive, whiny baby. You don't call up your mother in tears, confessing that your 6-year-old cheats, lies, and steals in order to be first or best, and that your 9-year-old thinks you are dishonest and have no character because you often drive over the speed limit and were caught telling a white lie. Neither do you excuse irresponsible behavior in the name of growth and development, or label your child because of birth order, socioeconomic position, or IQ. Each family learns to understand and solve its own problems by applying the best knowledge, insight, and intuition it has. This might include repeating to yourself phrases such as, "This too will pass," "Steady as she goes," "Roll with the punches," "Someday we'll laugh at this," or holding your breath and counting to 10 before you respond. As you teach Habit 5 to your family, and as you begin to operate in your circle of influence to live Habit 5 yourself, you will be amazed at the impact it will have on your family culture, even on small children. One father shared this. I realized the impact of seeking first to understand in the family the other day when I was watching our 3 sons interact. Jason, who is 1.5, had just knocked over Matt's toys, and Matt, who is 4 years old and not too articulate, was just about to slug his baby brother. Just at that time, Todd, our 6-year-old, walked over to Matt and said, "You're feeling really angry now, aren't you, Matt? Baby Jason just knocked down all your toys, and you are so angry you want to hit him." Matt looked at Todd for a moment, mumbled a few words, raised his hands, and walked out of the room. I thought to myself, wow, this really works. Remember, the key to Habit 5 is in the sequence. It's not just what to do, it's also why and when. Habit 5 helps us listen and speak from the heart. It also opens the door to the incredible family synergy we'll talk about as we move into Habit 6. Habit 6. Synergize. A friend of mine shared an insightful experience he had with his son. As you read it, think about what you might have done in his situation. After 1 week of practice, my son told me that he wanted to quit the high school basketball team. I told him that if he quit basketball, he would just keep quitting things all of his life. I told him how I had wanted to quit things when I was young, but I didn't, and that made a dramatic difference in my life. I also told him that all our other sons had been basketball players and that the hard work and cooperation involved in being on the team helped them all. I was confident it would help him too. My son didn't seem to want to understand me at all. With choked emotion, he replied, "Dad, I'm not my brothers. I'm not a good player. I'm tired of being harassed by the coach. I have other interests besides basketball." I was so upset that I walked away. For the next 2 days, I felt frustrated each time I thought of this son's foolish and irresponsible decision. I had a fairly good relationship with him, but it upset me to think that he cared so little about my feelings in this matter. Several times I tried to talk to him, but he simply would not listen. Finally, I began to wonder just what had led him to make the decision to quit. I determined to find out. At first, he didn't even want to talk about it, so I asked him about other things. He would answer yes or no to my small talk, but he wouldn't say any more than that. After some time, he began to get teary-eyed, and he said, "Dad, I know you think you understand me, but you don't. No one knows how rotten I feel." I replied, "Pretty tough, huh? I'll say it's tough. Sometimes I don't even know if it's all worth it." He then poured his heart out. He told me many things I had not known before. He expressed his pain at constantly being compared to his brothers. He said his coach expected him to play ball as well as his brothers. He felt that if he went down a different path and blazed a new trail, the comparisons might end. He said he felt I favored his brothers because they brought me more glory than he could. He also told me about the insecurities he felt, not only in basketball, but in all areas of his life. And he said he felt that he and I had somehow lost touch with each other. I have to admit that his words humbled me. I had the feeling that what he said about the comparisons with his brothers was true, and that I was guilty. I acknowledged my sorrow to him and, with much emotion, apologized. But I also told him that I still thought he would benefit greatly from playing ball. I told him that the family and I could work together to make things better for him if he wanted to play. He listened with patience and understanding, but he would not budge from his decision to quit the team. Finally, I asked him if he liked basketball. He said he loved basketball, but disliked all the pressure associated with playing for the high school team. As we talked, I found myself feeling good about what he was saying. I admit I still felt a little disappointed that he wouldn't be on the school team, but I was glad that at least he still wanted to play. He started telling me the names of the guys on the church team, and as he talked, I could sense his excitement and interest. I asked him when the church team played games so that I could attend. He told me he wasn't sure, and then he added, "But we need to get a coach or they won't even let us play at all." At that point, almost by magic, something shot between us. A new idea came into both of our minds at the same time. Almost in unison, we said, "I or you could coach the church team." All of a sudden, my heart felt light as I thought about how much fun it would be to coach the team and have my son as one of the players. The weeks that followed were among the happiest of my athletic experiences, and they provided some of my most memorable experiences as a father. Our team played for the sheer joy of playing. Oh, sure, we wanted to win, and we did get a few victories, but no one was under pressure. And my son, who hated to have the high school coach shout at him, would beam each time I would shout, "Way to go, son! Way to go! Good shot, son! Nice pass!" That basketball season transformed the relationship between my son and me. This story captures the essence of Habit 5, synergy, and of the Habits 4, 5, and 6 process that creates it. Notice how this father and son at first seemed to be locked in a win-lose situation. The father wanted his son to play ball. His motives were good. He thought that playing ball would be a long-term win for his son. But his son felt differently. Playing high school ball wasn't a win for him. It was a lose. He was always being compared to his brothers. He didn't like dealing with the pressure. It seemed to be your way or my way. Whatever decision was made, someone was going to lose. But then this father made an important shift in his thinking. He sought to understand why this wasn't a win for his son. As they talked, they were able to get past the positioning and into the real issues. Together, they came up with a better way, an entirely new solution that was a win for both. And that's what synergy is all about. Synergy is the summum bonum, the supreme or highest fruit of all the habits. It's the magic that happens when 1 plus 1 equals 3 or more, and it happens because the relationship between the parts is a part itself. It has such catalytic dynamic power that it affects how the parts interact with one another. It comes out of the spirit of mutual respect, win-win, and mutual understanding in producing something new, not in compromising or meeting halfway. A great way to understand synergy is through the metaphor of the body. The body is more than just hands and arms and legs and feet and brain and stomach and heart all thrown together. It's a miraculous synergistic whole that can do many wonderful things because of the way the individual parts work together. 2 hands, for example, can do far more together than both hands can do separately. 2 eyes working together can see more clearly with greater depth perception than 2 eyes working separately. 2 ears working together can tell sound direction, which is not the case with 2 unconnected ears. The whole body can do far more than all the individual parts could do on their own, added up but unconnected. So synergy deals with the part between the parts. In the family, this part is the quality and nature of the relationship between people. As a husband and wife interact, or as parents interact with children, synergy lies in the relationship between them. That's where the creative mind is, the new mind that produces the new option, the third alternative. You might even think of this part as a third person. The feeling of we in a marriage becomes more than 2 people. It's the relationship between the 2 people that creates this third person. And the same is true with parents and children. The other person created by the relationship is the essence of the family culture with its deeply established purpose and principle-centered value system. In synergy, then, you have not only mutual vulnerability and the creation of shared vision and values, new solutions, and better alternatives, but you also have a sense of mutual accountability to the norms and values built into those creations. Again, this is what puts moral or ethical authority into the culture. It encourages people to be more honest, to speak with more candor, and to have the courage to deal with the tougher issues rather than trying to escape or ignore them, or avoid being with people so as to minimize the likelihood of having to deal with such issues. This third person becomes something of a higher authority, something that embodies the collective conscience, the shared vision and values, the social mores and norms of the culture. It keeps people from being unethical or power-hungry, or from borrowing strength from position or credentials or educational attainment or gender. And as long as people live with regard to this higher authority, they see things such as position, power, prestige, money, and status as part of their stewardship, something they are entrusted with, responsible for, accountable for. But when people do not live in accordance with this higher authority and become a law unto themselves, this sense of a third person disintegrates. People become alienated, wrapped up in ownership and self-focus. The culture becomes independent rather than interdependent, and the magic of synergy is gone. The key ultimately lies in the moral authority of the culture, to which everyone is accountable. Because it's stepping out into the unknown, the process of creating synergy can sometimes be near chaos. The end in mind you begin with is not your end, your solution. It's moving from the known to the unknown and creating something entirely new, and it's building relationships and capacity in the process. So you don't go into the situation seeking your own way. You go in not knowing what's going to come out of it, but knowing that it's going to be a lot better than anything you brought into it. And this is risky business, an adventure. This is the magic moment of mutual vulnerability. You don't know what's going to happen. You're at risk. This is why the first 3 habits are so foundational. They enable you to develop the internal security that gives you the courage to live with this kind of risk. As paradoxical as it sounds, it takes a great deal of confidence to be humble. It takes a great deal of internal security to afford the risk of being vulnerable. But when people have the confidence and the kind of principle-based internal security that gives birth to humility and vulnerability, they then cease being a law unto themselves. Instead, they become conduits of exchanging insights. And in that very exchange is the dynamic that unleashes creative powers. Truly, nothing is more exciting and bonding in relationships than creating together. And habits 4 and 5 give you the mindset and the skill set to do it. You have to think win-win. You have to seek first to understand and then to be understood. In a sense, you have to learn to listen with the third ear to create the third mind and the third alternative. In other words, you have to listen heart to heart in genuine respect and empathy. You have to reach the point where both parties are open to influence, teachable, humble, and vulnerable before the third mind that is the part between the two minds can become creative and produce alternatives and options that neither had considered initially. This level of interdependence requires two independent persons who recognize the interdependent nature of the circumstance, issue, problem, or need so that they can choose to exercise those interdependent muscles that enable synergy to happen. Truly, habit 6 is the summum bonum of all the habits. It's not transactional cooperation, where 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's not compromise cooperation, where 1 plus 1 equals 1.5. And it's not adversarial communication or negative synergy, where more than half the energy is spent in fighting and defending, so that 1 plus 1 equals less than 1. Synergy is a situation in which 1 plus 1 equals at least 3. It is the highest, most productive and satisfying level of human interdependence. It represents the ultimate fruit on the tree, and there is no way to get that fruit unless the tree has been planted and nurtured and becomes mature enough to produce it. The key to creating synergy is in learning to value, even celebrate, the difference. Going back to the metaphor of the body, if the body were all hands, or all heart, or all feet, it could never work the way it does. The very differences enable it to accomplish so much. A member of our extended family shared this powerful story of how she came to value the difference between her and her daughter. When I turned 11, my parents gave me a beautiful edition of a great classic. I read those pages lovingly, and when I turned the last one, I wept. I had lived through them. Carefully, I kept the book for years, waiting to give it to my own daughter. When Kathy was 11, I presented the book to her. Very pleased by her gift, she struggled through the first 2 chapters, then deposited on her shelf, where it remained unopened for months. I was deeply disappointed. For some reason, I had always supposed that my daughter would be like me, that she would like to read the same books I read as a girl, that she would have a temperament somewhat similar to mine, and that she would like what I liked. Kathy is a charming, bubbly, quick-to-laugh, slightly mischievous girl, her teachers told me. She's fun to be around, said her friends. She's excited about life, quick to seek humor everywhere, a sensitive soul, said her father. This is really hard for me, I said to my husband one day. Her interminable zest for activities, her insatiable desire to play, her ever-bubbling laughing and joking are overwhelming to me. I've never been like that. Reading had been the singular joy of my preteen years. In my mind, I knew I was wrong to be disappointed in the difference between us, but in the recesses of my heart I was. Kathy was something of an enigma to me, and I resented it. Those unspoken feelings pass quickly to a child. I knew she would sense them, and they would hurt her, if they hadn't already. I agonized that I could be so uncharitable. I knew my disappointment was senseless, but as dearly as I loved this child, it did not change my heart. Night after night, when all were sleeping and the house was dark and quiet, I prayed for understanding. Then, as I lay in bed one morning very early, something happened. Quickly passing through my mind, in just seconds, I saw a picture of Kathy as an adult. We were 2 adult women, arms linked, smiling at each other. I thought of my own sister and how different we were, yet I would never have wished that she be like me. I realized that Kathy and I would both be adults someday, just like my sister and me. And dearest friends, do not have to be alike. The words came to mind. How dare you try to impose your personality on her? Rejoice in your differences. Although it lasted but seconds, this flash, this reawakening, changed my heart when nothing else could. My thankfulness, my gratitude was renewed, and my relationship with my daughter took on a whole new dimension of richness and joy. Notice how initially this woman assumed that her daughter would be like her. Notice how this assumption caused her frustration and blinded her to her daughter's precious uniqueness. Only when she learned how to accept her daughter as she was and to rejoice in their differences was she able to create the rich, full relationship she wanted to have. And this is the case in every relationship in the family. One day I was presenting a seminar dealing with right and left brain differences to a company in Orlando, Florida. I called the seminar Manage from the Left, Lead from the Right. During the break, the president of the company came up to me and said, "Stephen, this is intriguing, but I've been thinking about this material more in terms of its application to my marriage than to my business. My wife and I have a real communication problem. I wonder if you would have lunch with the two of us and just kind of watch how we talk to each other." "Let's do it," I replied. As the three of us sat down together, we exchanged a few pleasantries. Then this man turned to his wife and said, "Now, honey, I've invited Stephen to have lunch with us to see if he can help us in our communication with each other. I know you feel I should be a more sensitive, considerate husband. Can you give me something specific you think I ought to do?" His dominant left brain wanted facts, figures, specifics, parts. "Well, as I've told you before, it's nothing specific. It's more of a general sense I have about priorities." Her dominant right brain was dealing with sensing and with the gestalt, the whole, the relationship between the parts. "What do you mean, a general sense about priorities? What is it you want me to do? Give me something specific that I can get a handle on." "Well, it's just a feeling." Her right brain was dealing in images, intuitive feelings. "I just don't think our marriage is as important to you as you tell me it is." "What can I do to make it more important? Give me something concrete and specific to go on." "It's hard to put into words." At that point, he just rolled his eyes and looked at me as if to say, "Stephen, could you endure this kind of dumbness in your marriage?" "It's just a feeling," she said, "a very strong feeling." "Honey," he said to her, "that's your problem, and that's the problem with your mother. In fact, it's the problem with every woman I know." Then he began to interrogate her as though it were some kind of legal deposition. "Do you live where you want to live?" "That's not it," she said with a sigh. "That's not it at all." "I know," he replied with forced patience, "but since you won't tell me exactly what it is, I figure the best way to find out what it is to find out what it is not. Do you live where you want to live?" "I guess." "Honey, Stephen's here for just a few minutes to try to help us in our communication with each other. Just give me a quick yes or no answer. Do you live where you want to live?" "Yes." "Okay, that's settled." "Do you have the things you want to have?" "Yes." "All right. Do you do the things you want to do?" This went on for a little while, and I could see I wasn't helping at all, so I intervened and said, "Is this kind of how it goes in your relationship?" "Every day, Stephen," he replied. "It's the story of our marriage," she said. "It's the story of our marriage." I looked at the two of them, and the thought crossed my mind that they were two half-brained people living together. "Do you have any children?" I asked. "Yes, two." "Really?" I asked incredulously. "How did you do it?" "What do you mean, how did we do it?" "You were synergistic," I said. 1 + 1 usually equals 2. But you made 1 + 1 equal 4. Now that's synergy. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So how did you do it?" "You know how we did it," he replied. "You must have valued the differences," I exclaimed. Now, contrast that experience with that of some friends of ours who were in the same situation, except their roles were reversed. The wife said, "My husband and I have very different thinking styles. I tend to be more logical and sequential, more left-brained. He tends to be more right-brained, to look at things more holistically. When we were first married, this difference created something of a problem in our communication. It seemed that he was always scanning the horizon, looking at new alternatives, new possibilities. It was easy for him to change course midstream if he thought he saw a better way. On the other hand, I tended to be diligent and precise. Once we had a clear direction, I would work out the details, burrow in, and stay the course no matter what. This gave rise to a number of challenges when it came to making decisions together on everything from setting goals, to buying things, to disciplining the children. Our commitment to each other was very solid, but we were both caught up in our own ways of thinking, and it seemed like a lot of work to try to make decisions together. For a time, we tried to separate areas of responsibility. In doing the budget, for example, he would do much of the long-range planning and I would keep the records, and this proved to be helpful. We were both contributing to the marriage and family in our own areas of strength. But when we discovered how to use our differences to create synergy, we came to a new level of richness in our relationship. We discovered that we could take turns listening to each other and have our eyes open to a whole new way of seeing things. Instead of approaching problems from opposite sides, we were able to come together and approach problems with shared and much greater understanding. This opened the door to all kinds of new solutions to our problems. It also gave us something wonderful to do together. When we finally realized that our differences were parts of a greater whole, we began exploring the possibilities of putting those parts together in new ways. We discovered that we love to write together. He goes for the big concepts, the holistic ideas, and the right brainwaves of teaching. I challenge and interact with him on the ideas, arrange the content, and do the wordsmithing, and we love it. This has brought us together in a new level of contribution. We found that our togetherness is much better because of our differences rather than in spite of them. Notice how both couples were dealing with right and left brain differences in thinking. In the first situation, these differences led to frustration, misunderstanding, and alienation. In the second, they led to a new level of unity and richness in their relationship. How was the second couple able to get such positive results? They learned how to value the difference and use it to create something new. As a result, they're better together than they are alone. As we said in Habit 5, everyone is unique, and that uniqueness, that difference, is the basis of synergy. In fact, the whole foundation of the biological creation of a family hinges on the physical differences between a man and a woman that produce children. And that physical creative power serves as a metaphor for other kinds of good things that can come as a result of differences. Other kinds of good things that can come as a result of differences. It's not enough to simply tolerate differences in the family. You can't just accept differences. You can't just diversify family functions to accommodate differences. To have the kind of creative magic we're talking about, you must actually celebrate differences. You must be able to say sincerely, the fact that we see things differently is a strength in our relationship, not a weakness. Ironically, often the very things that attract people to each other in the beginning of a relationship are the differences, the ways in which someone is delightfully, pleasantly, excitingly different. Yet as they get into the relationship, somehow admiration changes to irritation, and some of those differences are the very things that cause the greatest distress.